Hello and welcome to MadeMill. My name is Janik Alfred. I'm the CEO of Prototype D. Today I'm hanging out with Justin and Comey and we're at My Byward office in the market. If you're not familiar with My Byward office, it is a fantastic resource. It's a co-working space where you can buy a membership and they've got some amazing deals. So talk to Eric McRae at My Byward office and I recommend that you take full advantage of this. We will be working inside and outside My Byward office to do workshops and client consultation while the Innovation Center gets the final touches and everyone gets ready to move in later on this year. So today I'm really excited to present a workshop that we've been looking forward to for a while. I'm going to teach you how to, first and foremost, introduce you to Blender, which is a free and open source 3D modeling and design program that is really core to the work that we do at MadeMill. And I'm going to show you how we take what we do in Blender and move it into virtual reality with the HTC VIVE. So today I'll be using Blender. We're going to use another program which is also free for trial and personal use called Unity. So we're using Unity version 5.4 and then we're moving it straight into the VIVE, and we're going to be able to show how exactly you do that to create your own virtual environments. This is going to be something that we do at MadeMill all of the time with product development, and so today is a great way to get started. And I encourage you to follow along on social media, but please, if you have any questions about anything we show in the workshop, ask in the comment section and we'll be more than happy to share with you. And don't forget to follow us so you get to see our next, all of our forthcoming videos that we're doing for MadeMill. So follow along, and I'm going to take you step by step through, and I look forward to it. Boom. So today we are using, I'm going to get you started here. I'm going to introduce a few key things. So first and foremost, I want to introduce you to Blender. Blender, as I mentioned, is a free and open source piece of technology that it is an amazing platform for entrepreneurs from every walk of life. If you have any 3D design, if you have animation requirements, you can also do sound and video editing. You can do motion capture, green screen development. And what's great about Blender, because it is free and open source, you can also develop your own or purchase, or sometimes you can get for free, a wide variety of different add-on tools and resources. And it's quickly becoming a platform for also virtual reality creation. So the HTC VIVE now with a new plugin, a free plugin, integrates right into Blender so you can actually design while being in a fully 3D immersive environment, which is a huge step forward if you are a designer or a product developer. So we will be using Blender, and then we're stepping straight into Unity, and I'm going to show you how we quickly and very easily create a 3D environment, and then I'll show you how we start to texture and get the light and the shadow that Blender is really good at into virtual reality, and then give you a chance to walk around in a demo project that we're doing, and so showing you all of the steps as that happens. So I'm screencasting using another free and open source tool called Cam Studio. So you'll be able to watch what I do on live time onto my on my desktop, and so you can pause and follow along yourself. So first and foremost, blender.org. You can go there. You can download the latest version of Blender, which is Blender 2.78a, and you can very quickly jump in. Another great site I want to tell you about is BlendSwap. So BlendSwap is it's a collective library of some of the best Blender artwork, and a lot of it is it's all free to download. A lot of it is open source. So if you see the 0, you're free to do anything, and then without giving credit to the artist. And then some of them requires you to give credit to the artist. I always recommend giving credit wherever you can. So even if it is no credit required, it's always good to give a shout out to people who've done such hard work. So BlendSwap, I think, has over 10,000 different models, and today we're using a shipping container. And as you see, they have a variety of things, a variety of standard ISO shipping container models. Today we're using this one. It's CC0, but it's created by a user named George. So what we're doing with the shipping container model, we're taking on a quick little project where we're converting a shipping container into a great usable space and retrofitting it, insulating it, and adding some solar panels. So it's just a demo project for you to follow along with. And so feel free to download that and check out that model. And then we're stepping right into Blender. So if you've never used Blender before, it's really a fantastic tool. When you come into Blender, I'm just going to start off with a new scene here just to give you a sense of it. So when you come into Blender, you're just in an empty space. You've got this cube. I always recommend that when you're using Blender, you need a full keyboard. So you need the keypad, and you also need a mouse, really to take advantage of all those opportunities. So sometimes if you don't have the keypad on your laptop, it's a little challenging. But I really recommend either an add-on USB keypad for all of your views, or if you are in the market for a new laptop, definitely always buy one that has the keypad. So right when you start off with Blender, there's a few things going on. So you have your transform menu on the left. You can toggle that with the T. You've got your timeline, because Blender is renowned for its animation capabilities. So your timeline across the bottom. There's things like layers and your snap tool, and then you also have your transform menu on the right. So this has certain things, key information about the location, rotation, scale, and dimension of whatever object you're selecting. So as you right-click, you can select various objects, and then on the right-hand side, by default, you also have your menus here, and that's where you have your scene menu. That's where you have your render menu, I should say. You've got your layers, your render layers. You've got your world settings. You have access to some of the add-ons that I'll tell you about in a future video. You have object information. You've got constraints, and again, those come in handy for creating real-world objects or animating. You also have your modifier stack. So this is where you can take an object and you can quickly start to modify things with arrays. So if I wanted to build a consistent set of replicate the boxes, I could start to use the modifier stack to cumulatively add on any of these modifiers and very rapidly develop something that's quite interesting. And then next you have your vertex groups, and we use that again for animating and for modeling. You've got your materials, your textures, and then finally we have our particle systems and also your physics. And so those are key things that we'll get into in a later workshop. But that's just to give you a whole variety of different things that you can access, really kind of from the macro level with your rendering settings to your world, to your object, to everything that modifies it. So it's a logical hierarchy of how you would prepare a scene. So today, you can start off with that and you can play around, and I'm going to jump straight into the shipping container model that we downloaded. So as you can see, I have the model here. Blender comes with a couple of different rendering engines built in. There's the Blender Render engine, which is the standard, and now there's Cycles, which has replaced it, which is an unbiased renderer. So it does photorealistic light rendering, and then using Blender, you can very quickly jump in and create you can right away see realistic light and shadow. So you're able to work in an environment that mimics our real world. And you can start using this environment to start doing 3D modeling and building your world. So very quickly, because we're talking about the integration between Blender to Unity to Vive, I'm gonna walk through and do some quick modifications to how I might fit up this just in a, for example, environment, and then we're going to punch some windows, put some windows into the holes, and then and give you a sense of how that would work. So just very quickly, I'm going into my side view. I can go into wireframe. Now I've set up the world here. As you can see, the units are imperial, so I'll be working in feet, but of course you can work in metric as well. And I'm going to just go Shift A. That lets me go in and start to add any of the basic objects, geometries, that you would model with. And I'm just going to pick a plane, and I'm going to hit the R for rotate and rotate it on the y-axis. And then I have a plane, so I can use the G button. So G is how you move. You press G, and then it moves with your mouse. And I can quickly create a window opening that's perhaps 2 feet by 3 feet. Actually, I want that the other way around. And then I can use this as a cutting tool. So say I want to create a window that's from the bottom of the shipping container. I can go up, say 3 feet. Oh, GZ3. And so say I want a window there. What I can do is I can very easily select this plane. I select the object, press tab, and do a knife project. And the cool thing with a knife project is I can either cut through the first surface, which is this corrugated side of the container, or I can do a cut through, which would actually let me cut through both sides of the container. So on this one, I'm just going to do, I'm going to just cut through one side of it for now. So, and it cuts the way you're looking at it. So if you saw it cut on a funny angle a second ago, it's because my camera was off to the side. So I can just press the delete key. I can delete all those faces. And then what I have now, if I go back to my object mode, I have a window there, and it cut. I selected. I guess I selected cut through in that case, and so now I have a hole there. So when I go in and render it, you can start to see that I can see through both sides of that, and then it also starts to let in a little bit of light onto the inside. So and you can get a glimpse into the inside here. And one of the things I like to do sometimes when I'm modeling is I use a plugin often called Pro Lighting Skies by Blender Guru. So I'm just going to turn that on. The cool thing is it actually simulates realistic clouds and light and shadows. And I'll talk about that in more detail in the future, or I encourage you to just go to Blender Guru and check out that plugin because it's really a major time saver, and it brings a lot of realism to your scene. So right now you can see that we're standing inside the shipping container, and I'm going to go through the same method, and I'm going to cut a couple more windows into this space. So I'm going to turn that off for a second. I'm going to go into top view, and I'm going to create another plane here. And so let's pretend we were going to put a couple of skylights here. So I can take the plane, I can use my modifiers, and I can make an array. And I can start to make a couple of windows. So if we say we wanted 4 skylight windows in that space, then I could apply that, select my object, hit tab, and go in and do a knife project here. And then because I don't want to cut through the floor, I'm going to uncheck cut through. So we only cut through the top layer there. Delete faces. And then you can see that we have now the skylights cut. And because Blender is using cycles, which is the unbiased photorealistic renderer, then it's super cool because we already start to get some light into the space, and we can start to use it, imagine what it would be like in reality. So I'm going to do just a couple of more things to show you a couple more steps, and then we're going to jump right into Vive. So for example, if I wanted to take what I'm doing here with the shipping container, we've started to cut some holes in it, and that's cool. And now let's say I wanted to imagine what it would look like with some wood siding. So what I could do is I could create myself a cube. I have my object snaps turned on, so if I just move, I use the G tool again to move. I can snap those 2 objects together, and then I can press tab, which gets me into edit mode, and then I can, I'll turn off snap there, and I can start to add on to the shipping container object. So I'm imagining here that I was doing something like adding an exterior finish or siding. And then, so I can start to put some siding on the edge of that. And so I've added that there. Obviously, we've covered over our window again. So if I want to, if I want to have that window there, I would have planned ahead and not deleted my cutting tool, but it's very simple to reproduce that. So I can bring that back here. I can make it 3 feet tall again. I can make it snap to that corner, so it's totally aligned to where it was before. And then I select that. I select the new piece of the new cube that I put on. I press Tab, do a knife project, and then cut all the way through, and then delete the face. So now that new piece of siding that we have on there has the same hole aligned where we cut into the shipping container. And then this is a very easy way where I can start to cover over that the same way you would do if you were architecturally building this. And so I want to tell you just very quickly, in terms of making things look realistic, we've placed a cube there, but in order to make it look realistic, often you do what's called texturing, and that comes in 2 steps. The first step when you're texturing is you would go and you would look for something like a wood texture that you could apply to the outside of your container. And I use a site called Polygon, P-O-L-I-I-G-O-N. And it's a subscription-based site where you can get, depending on your subscription, you can get a number of downloads per day. And they have thousands of really amazing high-quality textures. So if I wanted to apply this to the outside of my container, I could go on and find a wood plank that I wanted. They've got great diffuse, mask, displacement, gloss, normals, and reflection. And I'm not going to talk about what that means today. For now, we're just going to do a flat texture, but in the future, I'll walk you through how to make all different materials using this whole variety of maps. I can download that to the size that I want, so it simply downloads. I'm going to grab it out of that folder, and then I'm going to go and I'll put it somewhere convenient where I have the container. And then when I go back into Blender, I can map this. I can map that texture to this object. And so what I mean by so in order to apply that texture, I need to do something first called texture mapping. So how does a 3D system know where those planks are going to go? How does it know what size they should be in relationship to the object that you're trying to create? All that comes from something that's called UV mapping. So when I have an object, I press Tab and go into Edit mode. If I select the entire object, I can go into UV mapping by pressing the U button, and then I have some options here, but for today I'm just going to do Project from View. And what that does is it creates a projection mapping of that object. And it allows me to go and link that to an image. So for example, if I want to, I can then import my texture. So I'm going to create a material first. I'm going to make the color an image. I'm going to open that file that we just downloaded, wood planks. Open. And then I'm going to go to my UV or my image editor. And then what I have here is, you can see I'm in edit mode, and the 3D object, the faces that I was able to unwrap using the U button, pressing U and unwrapping, I have over here. And so what I can do is I can scale those faces, and that lets Blender know how big that face is, how big that object I just made is in relation to the texture. So if I scale that up, that shows you that you have all of the all of those planks there. If I scale it down, then that means when you look at it, there's only going to be maybe 3 or 4 planks. So that's how you can scale your textures to look proper. So when we go into render mode, you see here all of those, the scale of the texture is just transformed right against the model live time. So that's a great way if you're doing a design for mapping the materials that you would use in the real world onto the design, and considering what kind of materials that you'd want to use. So although it's a very simple thing thus far, I'm going to now just delete that. I'm going to now take this very, very simple start of a project, I'm going to show you how we create a Unity VR project, which will let us walk around and look at this space in virtual reality in live time and get a sense of both its scale in relation to us as individuals, but also to use virtual reality as a design tool that we can then start to imagine spaces better. So as you can see, I'm getting ready to create a new project. If you look here, you see I'm using Unity 5.4. And right on the website, this is the version that they are recommending for developing virtual reality. I'm going to make a new project, call it shipping container. Oops, container. And I'll just place it, I'll place it somewhere convenient. I'll put it in the workshop folder that I'm working from now. And I'm just going to hit create project. In Unity, we'll go through and it'll do a quick setup. And it brings you into an environment that's not totally different from Blender, if you think about it. So in Unity, you have a similar kind of world. You come off having a camera and a light, just like Blender. And the way Unity works is it lets you import what it calls our assets. So anything can be an asset. You can have a 3D model, you can have images, you can have sounds, and as well, you can link in a whole variety of different resources from their asset store, which is the third tab across the top. So they've got a ton of really cool things. Right now, they're featuring a residential house. So that's a 3D model that comes with a lot of cool stuff. They've got first-person controllers. They've got plugins and scripts and all those things that you can put together, and it helps you build a game-style environment that you can then use to develop as it's showing right now. Mobile phone games, Xbox games, PC games, really it's cross-platform, and it's an incredibly powerful tool. But right away, right from now, because we're working in VR, I want to use Steam VR. I can just search for that asset, and that is a free asset that they make available, and you can import that right into your project. That's going to allow us to work in virtual reality and create essentially games right away in the HTC VIVE. So it asks you to import a variety of different scripts. So say yes, and it will bring all of those as assets in, and then it will say it will ask you to update your project settings. So accept all. It will tell you made the right choice, and then you're ready to come back to your scene that you have there. So right away you can delete that main camera, that's a default camera, and then we can go into our assets, find prefabs, and bring in a camera rig. And so the camera rig is a little bit more comprehensive. You can see it's doing a few things right now. There's the same kind of camera. In blue, it has the Vive boundaries that you might be familiar with using when you're setting up the Vive. On the right-hand side in the inspector, you can set the size of that box. That's going to be in centimeters your working environment, where your boundaries would be, or you can say calibrated, which links to the Vive's room calibration settings. And as well, under the camera rig, you also have your left and right controllers, and that's to bring in those hand controllers to activate your game or your project using those controllers. And so to start to bring in the 3D model that we just made in Blender, I'm going to go right to the desktop. I'm going to go into my workshop, and I'm going to take the blend file, which is right here, big container 2. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to go into my project, and I'm just going to paste that blend file right into the assets. And as soon as you do that in Unity, you're going to see it refresh as it imports that. And right under assets now, we have what we just created, which is our big container. And so we can bring that into the space. And we can see the container. And you'll notice there's a few settings that we need to tweak because Blender and Unity show things in a different way. So right now, it's turning off the backs of all of the two-dimensional faces that make up this building, so that make up the shipping container. So we'll disable that in just a moment. But you can also see that we have object that we just added onto the outside that we're going to apply that wood texture to. Okay, and then material. So right there, we would also want to bring in as an asset into this project. We're also going to want to bring in that wood plank, so we can copy that right into the asset folder. And as soon as we have that, you'll see that in Unity, just like when we brought in the 3D model, the wood plank texture is there now from Polygon. And then finally, the last thing that we need to do is we just need to link that into the albedo, which is your diffuse or your standard color. And then there we have it right away. We have that same texture. So all of a sudden, it's starting to look very similar to what we have in Blender. So right now, we have our model in here. And I'm going to select the camera rig. And I want to get the virtual reality camera set up so you actually start outside of the container. That way we can walk around on the outside of the container and we can look at it in virtual reality. So I'm going to move that camera there and I'm going to just raise it so the plane on the bottom, that blue outline is where your feet go. So you'd want that flush with the bottom. It doesn't have to be, but for the viewer it really helps you ground yourself. Otherwise you'll feel like you're floating either under the ground or up in the air. And so really from here we're ready to start previewing and start to experience that. So as you see, we have the Vive set up in this space. We have both of the satellite stations there off to the edge. And I'm just going to make the compositor full screen here just to finish our setup. And then I'm going to get the Vive ready to experience the space. And so I'm just going to do a quick reboot on the Vive. I've actually found since buying the Vive, we've only had it for about a month, it's very sensitive to both screen resolution and to any changes that happen. So I found it to be requiring a lot of rebooting and setup. It is new technology, so some of this is to kind of be expected, but don't fret if you find you're doing a lot of that. And if you'll just turn on both controllers. So as you see right now, we're green across the board. We're ready to go. It says headset is not tracking, but that's just because the base stations can't see that. And now what I can do in Unity is I can actually just press play. And you'll see right now, I'm standing where we set the camera. And I'm looking around. You can see it on the screen here as well. And I can put that on. I can put on these goggles. They're a little tight. Somebody smaller headed than me was using them. And then hopefully you can start to see what I'm seeing here. So actually, I'm just going to disconnect that so I can walk around. So you see, I'm standing right here, and I can see that this is where I put the shipping container. And if I walk around, trying not to bump into the coffee table in my environment, I can actually stick my head through the side of it, and I can look around inside the shipping container. And so this would be great for giving somebody the preview. You get a sense of the scale. So this is a 20-foot shipping container. I can see all of the wood that we've added onto the outside. And there's a few ways you could let them experience this all around. So obviously they can move around inside their boundary environment. But what you can also do is I'll show you this in a later video. You can link the hand controllers to also help you navigate or teleport through the space as well. So this gives me a good sense of what the outside of the shipping container would look like with some of the wood siding. That's great. And I'm going to just pause this right now, and then I'm going to move your camera rig inside the container so we can look around also inside. So stop. I'm just going to pause that. I'm going to take that same camera rig that we have here on our hierarchy. I'm just going to go into the top view. I'm going to go to the ortho view. And I can bring that into the space. I'm going to rotate it in 90 degrees. And I'm going to make my box a little smaller because we are working in a fairly constrained space here within just behind my work table. So I'm just going to make it match kind of the size of the container. and we'll go right there. So right away, I can relaunch that. And when we get the camera tracking here again, as you can see, we're inside the space now. I'm going to pop these on, have a look around. And so as you see right now, those are the two windows that we cut within the space. Unity has a live-time rendering engine, so you can actually see the light coming down through the space, which is awesome. And of course, as we layered this on, we could add in a sky. There, right in front of me, you can see the sun coming down through that space, but we can put in very realistic skies and environments. But from here, you get a great sense of how big this space would be inside the shipping container. We have the doors in front of us, we have the windows and the skylights that we've made, and yeah, it gives us an immediately kind of clear sense of that environment. So, Comey, you're welcome to try that on yourself here as well. Unity had a bug, which I will cancel here.
You really get a sense of scale, eh?
Yeah, so this is a 20-foot shipping container to give you a sense of the size. A standard ISO shipping container is 8 feet wide and 8.5 feet tall. And you'll find that although there's slightly different models, that's the ISO size that most people would work with. They come in 20, sometimes 30, but typically 20 and 40-foot lengths. And yeah, so Comey, this is giving you a sense of size and scale. So from here, we would be able to start to work very rapidly in a rapid development cycle where we can add features, and then you, if you were the client or the designer, could pop into virtual reality, see how they look and feel, and we have every single aspect of the project we can develop, from the architectural to the HVAC and heating systems, but also as importantly, the things like your light. So we can do very realistic lighting. Anything that we render using the Cycles engine, we can bring in that level of photorealism as well, because here you're in the what's called a DirectX or OpenGL viewport, but we can bring in those light and shadow renderings, and we can map to that environment. So you would get a very, very clear sense of the look and feel of that space, and then you can also tailor it. So if you remember, what I did very quickly is I added that wood texture, but now in Blender we can just go change those textures. You hit save, and automatically Unity updates, and you're in that environment. So it's super responsive now that we have the whole scene set up.
Just gonna step out here.
You're going to step outside the container as well. So super fast to develop with this. I could make it brick. I could make it anything you want. And you're already in VR. So what we're doing at MadeMill is we're not just doing architectural spaces. Any product that you want to experience, whether it's a small product or a large product, or if you have a new piece of wearable technology, for example, and you literally want to step inside your smartwatch, step inside your drone, and look at all the interior components, of course we can quickly and rapidly scale those things and let you both explore and develop, but also demonstrate in our VR corner that we're going to have inside the Digital Media Lab. So that's where we're going to wrap up today's session. I hope it's been a great introductory lesson to get you into Blender, get you thinking about the Unity program, and also how to link those things with virtual reality. That way you can quickly and easily show this to your clients. VR is going to change the way we think about products and architectural spaces, and it's going to continue to grow to be an incredible tool for rapid prototyping and innovation. And we are certainly going to be adopting this and other platforms like the HoloLens to help you bring your project into that next level. So thank you for following along. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube so you can see when we release new videos. And we really look forward to your questions, suggestions, and if there's something that you want to see along the lines of Makerspace or Digital Media Lab technology, please drop us a line. We would be happy to do custom workshops based on what you're after. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. And thanks to my Byward office for being such a wonderful host. Again, I really encourage you to talk to Eric McRae. There's this space that we're in, but they have multiple other areas, including their breather space. And it's just a tremendous resource. And we look forward to doing more workshops and more engagement right from here. So that's it for today. Thank you very much. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors. So MadeMill is funded in part by generous contributions from the FedDev Ontario program, the City of Ottawa, and the Government of Ontario. And to check us out at www.mademill.com or on Instagram at MadeMill Canada. Thank you.